Yeah, I look like shit. So, good morning, folks. um, I'm using my GoPro with it on a stand, like at the edge of my desk, facing me. Not the best setup. I thought it was going to work better, but I don't know. When it goes into webcam mode, it is super wide angle, and it's just kind of silly. I'll figure something out better for next time. Welcome. Uh, we're going to cover a variety of stuff, but a whole group of it all has to do with supply chain shit. Um, because we're kind of seeing a seasonal shift right now. Most of the country is either already starting spring or preparing for it. Hoping for it, wishing for it, dreaming about it. Depending where you are, you may have already started it and be well into it. If you're southern Florida, lower Texas down here, we're already pretty spring like, other than today. Uh, um, and what I'm seeing is that for a lot of products, the retailers just don't have it. They are still trying to sell you the winter stuff. They're trying to sell you, non-seasonal specific stuff. The spring product is not available yet. Clothing lines, they seem to have done better. So outdoor clothing, the manufacturers seem to have figured out that, hey, we're going to have a problem. Let's skip a season, for the most part, and just push ahead. And we'll send the other stuff too, or at least some of it, but we know that, we need to ship the spring stuff real early or it's not going to get there in time. But even then, I'm seeing like retailers will have twice as many displays of certain brands that they normally would because that's all they've got. They don't have the other brands because they just haven't gotten it yet. It's the same thing with certain kinds of ammunition, certain kinds of fishing stuff, like turkey ammo, which is the start of the turkey discussion, right? Was in Bass Pro. Checked a couple other places. Like one option for turkeys. And like if you want to shoot number 4 bird shot or a buckshot, I guess you can do that for turkey. That's not the end of the world. But like the fancier combination ones where they've got a couple, buckshot in there and then some number 1 bird shot and some number 2s, like they're filling it out real well. That's real popular with the turkey guys. Didn't see any of it. None of it in stock anywhere that I went. And that seems to be the trend. When we went into hunting season for regular ammo, there was some, but not a big selection, right? And then toward the end of hunting season, oh, now you can get 4 different, hunting loads for your 308. Now there's, 6 options for your 270. Well, where was that in, September and October? Not December and January. It would have been nice. So same thing. I think we're going to see this start to get better, even if the overall supply chain situation doesn't greatly improve. Retailers and manufacturers are just going to adapt. They're going to suck it up and go, hey, I know we're going into summer and I know you just shipped me summer goods. Instead of shipping me the second set of summer product, skip it. Don't even produce it. Send me my fall stuff. Because by the time it gets produced and gets shipped and actually clears the port, now I'm going to get it. And they're going to have to. And I think some of them have already done it. I think that some of the shortages you're seeing in stores is the result of that. That they said, you know what, the spring stuff, it's not making it through the ports in time. Skip it. We'll get domestic. We'll get more from this brand that is, producing, say, in Mexico rather than Asian. It's not in Taiwan. It's not in Thailand. It's not in Vietnam. These are all countries that produce a lot of the non-electronics, non-physical, non-hard goods. A lot of the clothing, a lot of the um, little bits and bobs, basically, are produced in those countries. Gloves. Vietnam is a big glove industry. What the hell happened to my screen? I'm looking up at my actual display of what you guys are seeing. Yeah, that was bizarre. Maybe it was the Russian hacker who posted the link. Mr. UC, let me read that. I know you guys just love this view. UCFDWLCKNGY. Yeah, reading those names on a 4K screen when I've got shrunk is tough. I don't know why I'm so yellow too. Sorry, the color balance is off or something. But anyway, turkey vests, turkey backpacks, the turkey harnesses with the seating pads. What you're seeing is a lot of last year's models or stuff that continued and the store just was keeping an inventory. So it's going to sell out quick. Don't go week one of turkey season and go, well, let me get a new vest because the one I took out last weekend was shit. Was the strap chewed through or something. They're not going to have it. Go now. Go this weekend and find it. Because I think that we will sell out of things faster. The variety will be smaller, and the brands you necessarily want are not going to be your first choice. They're not going to be what you get in the store. I have not checked specifically for like Sitka. Did they adjust? Did Under Armour adjust their stuff? Some of the house brands for like Bass Pro and who else? Like a Dick's. Did they just push it forward? I don't know. I haven't looked to see what's actually shown up for them. But in terms of ammo and blinds and things like that, it's all screwed up. So don't wait. Don't think you're going to get it, for first weekend and just go look, find it now, because you may have to go hunting 3 or 4 places. You may have to, hit 5 stores to find the turkey loads you want, not the one option that Bass Pro had. And they only have like 6 boxes. Like there's a whole shelf that's supposed to be turkey loads. They reset the shelf, new tags and everything. It was great. But there was no product. And when I asked, they're like, yeah, we don't have any. It didn't come in. We haven't seen any of it. Normally there's like the display at the main section, and then there's some over by the turkey calls, and it's scattered. Nothing. They had jack shit. What else do we have? Oh, the fishing lures, seasonal fishing lures, same thing. I still cannot find certain colors in certain lures. You go in and they're like, well, if you want fire craw in a bladed jig, here's the one option. Really? Like you want that crankbait in seasonal colors, right? In fire craw, in bright red, in root beer. Yeah. You can get the 12-foot depth one. You can get the weird off-brand you've never heard of. You can get the house brand one. I have not tried the Bass Pro XPS crankbaits and jerkbaits. I'm going to try them, see how they are, but I haven't gotten to it yet. They seem to be fairly priced, and people that I've talked to said they're pretty decent. Until you try it, until you break a couple of them, you don't know. But yeah, getting soft plastics in the right colors for the season. Green pumpkin's always available. Black and blue seems to always be available. But some of the more specialized colors, they're out there. You can get them. But maybe you have to order from somewhere different, or you need to try 3 places before you can get everything you wanted into one order. and comes and goes quickly because they're not getting as much of it. I wanted some Firecraw trailers, and I was trying to get the Z-Man ones. I ended up ordering from Tackle Warehouse to get the Z-Man trailers, and that was all I wanted. I was just after the trailers, and I ended up going, well, I'll buy everything else that's been on my list in order to justify the shipping, and made those trailers really expensive. So don't wait. If you're like, for me, spring is now. We had a string of days where it was too warm seasonally, and fish started moving up. And I mean, pre-spawn, it was crazy. And then it got cold again, and they all shifted back. But we're down here in Texas and in areas of Florida and so on. You're shopping that kind of stuff already, and we're not finding it. It's not available. It should be, but it's not. So what I'm saying is, if you're in Georgia, if you're in Alabama, if you're in South Carolina, buy it now. Find it now. If you're further north, don't wait 2 months. In a month, start shopping, or do it now. But don't wait until the last minute, because you may find that you're SOL. And the problem is going to be that for seasonal stuff, they may just go, you know what, we're moving on. We hit the production date, and we're switching. And if we didn't make enough and we didn't get it shipped, oh well. The next run for that color or that particular bait is not for 3 months. And if you're still waiting on it, you might be waiting a long time. It might be midsummer, and you're like, well, I don't need that now. Do I want to buy it, waiting for next spring? And the answer might be, yeah. I'm also seeing fishing reels and rods, but it seems to be very obvious in the fishing reels. Certain brands are managing to keep up and keep shelves stocked, shelves and online. Michael, I am having hot chocolate, and congratulations, you made it. I'm usually doing hot chocolate for these. If I drink coffee at this hour, I'll be up all night. So this is actually Black Rifle hot chocolate. I was not a fan when I made 8 ounces or 12 ounces or 10 ounces in one cup. But 6 ounces from one of their pods worked great. So if you're not doing the pods, just know that don't dilute it. Do it their full strength. It is great hot chocolate. Just can't stretch it like you can some of them. And possibly my oldest mug. This was my high school, and I got this mug my freshman year to throw on my desk and like throw pens and the usual crap that accumulates on a desk in there, and use it that way through school, college. Yeah. I mean, I don't think I started using this as a mug until a couple of years ago. It's been everything else over the years. But yeah, reels have been tough. Even like the house brands, even like the Bass Pro brands, the popular models, they don't have the popular version. Like they'll have the slow or super fast gear ratios. They'll have the offhand retrieve. If it's a crank or a casting reel, it'll be only left hand or only right hand, or they'll only have the right hand retrieve because that's the most popular. So they made sure they got enough of those, but I like a left hand retrieve. Yeah, we got 2 of those. They sold. They don't know when they're going to show up. And it's not like it's just a store. You go to the website, it's the same thing. They just don't have it. It hasn't made it to the country yet. And I'm looking at it, and they have 1,000,001 options for Shimano Curados, right? There's a whole stack of them. They got everything. And he's like, yeah, those just came in. We haven't had them for 3 months. Well, great. Like that doesn't help us. The Daiwas, because I was talking to the guy about trying the Daiwa, because I've had Shimano or Bass Pro for my casting reels since I got back into it. I haven't tried a Daiwa since I was a child. I think I was 14 years old. And I handled a couple and was like, it's a price point. I don't think I like them as much as the Shimanos. So I went with the Corrado and I went with the Bass Pro Qualifier 2 when I got back into it. And I don't regret those choices. Like those, I've been happy with those. I got the BBQ2 for like $70, and the Shimano I paid a little under normal. And they're great. But like there's this whole other world of Daiwas, right? The tool line is great. There's a couple others. I should try, if only so that I can honestly tell myself I prefer the Shimanos, rather than being that guy who's like, yeah, Shimano all the way, and you never actually gave the other brand a try. So I'm trying to decide how much I spend on that. But right now my choice is $200 or $100, because they have the cheapest version and they've got the $200 version, and they've only got like 2 total units of each. They don't have a selection. So if you're looking for reels for this year, go shopping now, go hunting now. You may go into your usual sporting goods store and they have 2 options and you're SOL if you don't order it. And if you know how it goes, if you can't get it locally and you order it and you need it now because your season starts this weekend, it will come in broken. If you order it now and your season starts in a month, it'll be fine. It'll come in great. No problems. But just don't wait. That's kind of my experience right now, is that everything is just behind and it's getting there. Like it's the product is coming in, but you're just not going to get it in time. What else did we have? Staying on topic for the channel and not going political yet. Ammo, 30-30. Haven't seen any in a while locally. 44 Magnum, 44 Special. I'm seeing some, but not a lot. The Bass Pro guys were like, yeah, we haven't gotten any in a while. The local shops have some, but it's like one day they've got some jacketed soft points. The next day it's just, standard ball practice ammo. And they're like, it's still overpriced, but it's all we've got. 38 and 357, same thing. That seems to be a little better, but it's still, because it was so bad for so long, it comes in and people go, gimme, and grab it all and take it. That whole, 5-box limit only does you so much good when you get 10 boxes in, and the guy and his buddy that see it first take all it. That makes it tough. What else? 6.5 Creedmoor. I don't know what the hell happened. It's suddenly on titanium. I thought it was just me. I thought maybe I was not looking in the right places. I talked to like 4 people today who were all like, 1 minute it was okay, it wasn't great, but there was, you could find it. And everybody was like, it's shit options. Like you can find a couple things, but it's never what you want, or it's, out of stock suddenly because they had 3 boxes and they put it on the website and the first person took it all. I don't know if there was like a brass shortage. Did they, switched over that run to make something else, and then the manufacturers for the ammo ran out? I have no idea, but it is a very distinct. We were cruising along with not enough, but steady supply, and suddenly no supply, um, which puts it in the same category as some of the more esoteric stuff, 2506, 280 Ackley improved, um, even some of the new stuff, the newer 6.8 Westerns, the stuff where it was available just because nobody was using it yet. There might be 3 people in the area who had rifles in it, and 2 of them hand loaded. But it's really getting tough. And I think a lot of that has to do with just the cyclical nature of brass production, because if there's a family of cartridges or a group that uses the same base brass, well, the companies don't go, well, we're going to produce a whole bunch of this and we're going to just make all of them. No, they have to go, okay, we're making this base case, and the next step in the process, we have to decide what it becomes. They don't have 20 different lines that they can keep producing all of them. It's like, well, if we're say it's a 308 based round, you've got 308. They're always going to produce the 308, but then you're producing something else, and you're like, well, we've got 3 things we produce on this line from this 308 starting point case. Which one are we doing this week, this month? They don't want to change it constantly. That eats into your production time, and it's expensive, and things screw up, and you have problems. So they're trying to do a month, 2 months, and that's hopefully 6 months worth of ammo or 8 months worth of ammo for that case, and then they'll switch it and so on. So you're never out of it. You get back to that cartridge, that case, before you shipped all of the first one. And that works when you're not already behind schedule, when there isn't a run on ammo, when people have not had years of, I can't find what I want, so when I see it, I buy 3 years worth. Now that whole system doesn't work too well, and there's nothing they can do about it. There's no magic solution. There's no magic bullet. They're already ramping up production. They're already buying new machinery. They've already added production. Every manufacturer of ammo, every major company, I'm not talking the little guys, every big manufacturer of ammo has expanded production significantly on a consistent basis for the last 20 years. It's boom, 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 boom down the line. Some companies have only gone up 20%. Some have doubled, tripled. It's not like they're not trying to meet the demand. It's how they make money. If they could ship enough ammo to satisfy the demand, they'd be happy, because it's not like the demand is suddenly going to go away. It may ease, but that's when you get time to do maintenance. That's when you get time to fix things. That's when your employees get to take a vacation and not screw over your production line. This is not highly skilled labor for most of this, but it's not, at least in terms of maintaining and operating some of these machines, it takes a little time. It's not stupid work. It's just repetitive work. And if something goes wrong, the people who know how to maintain those machines, this is proprietary equipment. This is something that it's only used in one industry. It's not like there's this big pool of people who know how to work on it. It's the same people for all these companies. You're calling the service company for a machine that does brass forming or bullet swaging. If you've got to go out of your in-house people, is that a 2-week wait to get somebody? Is that a month wait? I don't know, but I'm guessing it's not days. So, but yeah, it is. A lot of people like to say, they're intentionally maintaining the shortage. They don't expanding production. Every company rep will tell you that they are. When they give tours, you can see it. They're out of space, and they, if you look at a tour from 4 years ago, there was this whole section that was kind of, just empty storage and stuff. it's constantly being added to. Not ammo related, but rifle components and stuff. LaRue Tactical built a whole new facility a few years ago and filled it with CNC machines, like row after row after row after row, and they still can't keep up. They literally, I mean, it was like tripling their capacity because it was all brand new machines. It wasn't the well, we got this machine and then we added this machine a couple of years later and this machine. It wasn't staged over time. It was literally, we know what we need and we're buying the latest and fastest and best stuff we can. We've got the workflow dialed in. How fast can we make it? Because we can ship it and we can sell it and we can make more money and everybody's happy. And they still can't keep up with some of the stuff. They're still going, well, that item is a little less popular and it's just not going to be available for a month because we'll get to it. We've got to shut down production on our more popular unit, which is already maxed out. We're making as many as we can to produce that other one because we only have so many machines. And I mean, it's a nice theory that you can just buy another building or build another building and get these machines. But the machines don't magically appear. The space, the physical, production facility doesn't magically appear. The people to run the machines don't magically appear. I know that locally, skilled CNC machinists, I just took, just finished school for it, or I did it for a couple of years, but like the guys who really know their shit, you can choose your own pay. Like, I mean, if you can do it, they will hire you and put you to work right now at very good pay at a dozen places in this area. But they don't need any more office staff. They don't need any more sales guys. They don't need any more delivery people. They literally need more people to keep the machines running because they're trying to go 24 hours because they can't keep up. They're trying to go, well, we got 3 new machines. Did we put in what used to be the break room? And the break room is now a food truck outside what used to be our smoking area. Like, that's the shit that's happening for companies to keep up. And they still can't keep up. So the shortage on that kind of stuff is not going to end until companies either finish expanding, they finally get to a better spot, or demand eases enough that you reach an equilibrium where they can keep up and supplies are on the shelf long enough that people stop panic buying. And I think that's a lot of it. If there's a psychology of it, if it's on the shelf, you don't panic buy. You may buy some, but you don't feel the need to buy extra if you regularly see it available, if you don't feel like there's a shortage. So when you reach that point where you walk in and there's a shelf full of it, instead of buying as much as you're allowed, you're like, okay, I could use a couple boxes, which means that it sticks around longer, which means that the next shipment gets there before the shelf is empty. And so on and so on and so on. And the manufacturers can switch calibers more easily or switch scope mounts and whatever it is. So for the politics side, because we're at half an hour and I probably want to cut this off at 45 minutes and go to sleep because it was a long day. I think it is truly remarkable how stupid the Biden administration must think we are. Everything's Russia's fault now. Everything. The inflation, Russia's fault. Gas prices, Russia's fault. The general economy, Russia's fault. No recognition that anything they've done has caused any of these problems. No discussion of the global situation. No discussion of the fact that, well, you did stop the pipeline from being completed. You did make it harder for domestic oil producers to produce. You did shut down production of new nuclear facilities. You did this, which made us more dependent on Russian oil, among others, which now is resulting in oil prices going through the roof and our gas prices going through the roof. So is that only Russia's fault, or is that the end result of making us dependent on a hostile foreign power for a critical item? Now, I'm not saying that you don't buy from foreign sources as well, but when you make it so that you don't have a choice, you're at their mercy. You're making it so that they have power over you. And I mean, if we really want to get old school, we can do a Frank Herbert quote: "He who controls the spice, or he who controls I can't remember the freaking quote, but basically, if you control the source of something, you have power over it. If you control the source of something that somebody needs, you have power over them. You have control over them. If they are absolutely dependent on something that you can shut down or shut down enough of that it cripples them, you have power over them. Why did we give Russia power over us? Why? What was that? What was the thought process? Did that equaled good? That equaled, yeah, that makes sense when you have a choice. Because we're not talking about our stupid choice to be dependent on China for all these cheap goods. That, to some extent, it hurts, it's annoying. But if China dropped off the face of the planet, we can produce those goods. We can live without most of them. You would adjust. If China turns off the tap, no more ships leave China from today. Yeah, it sucks. Walmart's going to be looking awful scarce. Target's going to be looking awful empty. Pier 1's going to be looking awful empty. So on. But it'll be okay. There's options. Well, you turn off Russian oil, and the whole world goes, oh shit. What do you do with that? Why would you put yourself in that position? And it's not like there's no choice. I mean, I'm a big, big proponent of nuclear power. I think that the advances in how you can build a nuclear power plant and what kind of generator facility you can build now versus when most of the freaking power plants were built is revolutionary. I mean, it's not even in the same ballpark, but they don't want to talk about it. It's just nuclear bad. Oh my God. There are countries that have built nuclear power plants in the last 20 years and very safe, very reliable. You don't have this huge waste problem that was a symptom of the earlier technologies. And you get good, clean power cheaper than any other option. You have a high startup cost, but your actual cost per kilowatt later is way lower. And you can dial it up and down. It's not like hydroelectric or coal-fired plants where, yeah, you've got some adjustability, but there's only so much, because spooling up a turbine, the big turbines, is time consuming. It's risky. You don't want to shut them down and turn them back on any more than you have to. There are ways to do this with nuclear that are much more granular. It's efficient to do it that way because you don't need to generate a ton of power all at once. You have to generate a minimum amount of power because otherwise you don't have a reaction, right? But after that, you can just turn on the tap a little further, a little further, a little further, and do a whole bunch of smaller generators that are easier to cycle in and out. You can take one out of the sequence and go, we're just making a little less power. You can take one down from maintenance more easily. If you've ever seen the generators in like the Hoover Dam, They are massive units. And taking one down for service takes a massive chunk of that output out of service. It doesn't have to be that way with modern nuclear power, just by nature of how it operates. But, that's a no-no. Oh my God. And the problem is that if we start now, it's probably 10 years before the first one comes online. It's not fast. So that's not an easy solution. But they're out there telling us, go buy an electric car. Well, what electric car? Which one? The one that Detroit can't manage to make because they're 2 years behind and their car sucks? The Tesla that they're already selling as many as they can make, and the limitation is the batteries that require components and like metal units and things from China? Because China is the source for most of the rare earths in the US. We don't have our own supply. It's not something we have. So you're going to say do electric vehicles that are dependent on stuff from China. That doesn't freaking help us. And more importantly, where's the electricity going to come from? Even if you snap your fingers and there's 110 million new electric vehicles in this country, 200 million even, and there's electric trucks. Tesla trucks are suddenly everywhere, and the Volvo one I think is starting to be built, and we've magically replaced all the trucks with those. Where are you going to charge them? With what electricity? We're already having many places in this country doing rolling brownouts during peak season, and that's without everybody trying to charge a car. Most of the cars that are electronic vehicles these days are hybrids. If all the people who have a hybrid suddenly have a plug-in and there's no hybrid portion, and there's no gasoline engine charging, where's that power coming from? Because you shut down our domestic source of power. We're relying on foreign oil to power our generators. Yeah. Because let's face it, most of our natural gas, foreign. Most of our propane, foreign. Most of our oil. I don't know if most of our oil, but a huge chunk. I have no idea what the actual percentage is, if we actually are domestically more than 50% or not. But it's easy to look up. I just haven't done it lately. It swings back and forth all the time. But a big chunk of our oil consumption, whether it's to make, to power generators, to power vehicles, to turn into lubricants, oil is oil and then gets processed into a lot of stuff. It's foreign. So you're still dependent on outside materials. We need to be smarter than that. And our government seems to treat us like 5-year-old children, that you give an answer that shuts them up, that doesn't make you look like an idiot. And how accurate or deep that answer is, completely irrelevant. And then they turn around and leave and don't answer questions, don't want to give any concrete info. They have no plan, or their plan is non-functional. And they just don't want to talk about it. And they think that's okay. And to me, that's the problem. If you say, hey, we're looking into this, I'm okay with that. That's a valid answer of, I don't know, but we're working on it. To me, that's an honest, realistic answer, because I don't know what the answer is. I know that I'm a big fan of nuclear because I think that long term, that's a good solution. I think that solar should be involved. I think that wind turbines, not a great option for a lot of reasons, but they have a place. I think that having a lot of options for how you generate power is good, because that way, when one is having a problem, others pick up the slack. You should never be dependent on one source for something. And most of these systems complement each other. For example, solar is great during the day. It's also great locally. If you have to transmit that power long distance, now you're reducing the efficiency. You've got to upscale the power, which means you've got to generate higher voltages or convert. Well, when you convert, there's loss. Solar's really good if you can use it at the voltage of the panel or with minimal conversion. That's efficient. That's great. But that's not so great when you're trying to generate power for a state. Wind, great. When the wind is blowing, if you have a steady breeze, doesn't take a lot. Those things don't need a lot of wind, but they kill a lot of birds. They're very space consuming and not terribly popular. They make noise, they're ugly. Like they're the kind of thing like you add where you can to supplement, again, the local power grid. But nuclear is the kind of thing that you use to generate power for your national grid. That's your backbone. Because you've got coal-fired power plants that are dying. They are, 60, 70 years old. And how long are they going to last? How long are we going to keep digging coal? I mean, I grew up in an area near coal production. There's only so much, and there's only so many people willing to do it, and the regulations are making it way less financially attractive. And it makes the power less financially attractive because if the fuel source costs more, so does the power. If your hardware requires more service, costs more. You have to keep up with this stuff, and they're acting like, what in the world? What is my camera doing? I have no idea, guys. I'm just going to move over here. I don't know if you're seeing that or that's just me. That is bizarre. Let me move my screen and see if that. No, it literally froze. We're going to do that. They're literally treating us like that 5-year-old that you give a half answer to that really is not accurate. And you assume they're just going to take it. They're just going to believe you because you're the adult and you're just supposed to buy in. And I don't think that's okay. I think that at this point, we deserve more information. Even if in the press conference you don't get it, you hit the highlights and you say, the press release packet is here and it's available and you can go look. And, that's the bigger plan that we're talking about. But they don't give you any of that. There's no plan as far as we can tell. And then inflation, not as a conspiracy theory, but like real inflation. And they're passing giant spending bills with no discussion, no time for public debate or input. Just boom, there it is. We released it one day and passed it the next. Well, could you have passed what you needed to pass so the government doesn't shut down, the bare minimum of what you needed to continue operating, and then leave the rest of it for more time so there was actually like public discussion? Did maybe most of the politicians at least would have had their staff read it? Because at this rate, most of those staffs absolutely did not have time to read through it, comprehend what it might do, and then tell their boss. There was just no time. So you're dependent on who put that together? What lobbyist put that together? What group put that together? What was their agenda? Might be a good agenda, might be a bad agenda. We don't know. It's like Senator Warren she's working on a crypto bill. Senator Warren's not working on shit. Some lobbyist is working on it and is going to hand it to her with a check. Here's your vacation, or here's your $20,000 speech fee for 5 people in a conference room for 5 minutes. your appearance fee for something you should have gone to as a congressperson anyway. Yeah, here's your $100,000. Like Pocahontas is full of shit. She's not working on this herself. At the very best, if we're really lucky, her staff is putting something together. But what do they know about crypto? Uh, have they worked in crypto? Do they know anything about it? Or did they last buy their Bitcoin on Robinhood? Like, seriously, if you're not in crypto, you don't know shit. You don't know diddly squat. And even if you're in crypto, you may know your little niche. You may have a general global view, but to pass a bill one way or the other, pro or con, or to regulate it somehow, hopefully you've got some serious understanding of what you're regulating, how your regulation is going to affect it, how it's going to affect your goal for the regulation. Like, is your regulation meant to protect consumers? Okay. But how is it actually going to work? Do you really understand that? Is your regulation supposed to be tax oriented? Like, so that we understand what the taxes are supposed to be on it, and it's not just straight capital gains, which doesn't make any sense. Okay. But do you understand what is going to happen? Is it going to bring in more revenue or less revenue? Not, okay, if nothing changes in terms of what people do, this will bring in more or less revenue. No, people are going to react to what your bill does, and they're going to behave in a different way. They're going to change. You introduced a new element, there's going to be change. Second, third, fourth order effects. It's like Washington operates on fantasy, and there's not even like a cause and effect at one layer. It's like they think that I said it, so it is. I wanted it, so it is. It's like they don't live in the real world. If you pass a law, people will adapt, people will adjust their behavior. Pistol braces. The law said X, so everybody did Y. Then they changed the rules, and everybody did Z. And then the ATF decided that Z was bad, and we all told them to fuck off, right? I mean, that's basically what happened. But somebody thought it was a good idea to go, well, A, B, C, D, and we're just going to ban them. Why? Because they didn't like them, and their original goal was to get rid of them. And they tried A, B, C, and D, and people kept finding ways around it. And they finally decided, screw that, we're just going to outright try to ban them and make it so impossible for somebody to do legally that they just don't do it. And the gun community stood up and told them no. And apparently it seems like they, decided it wasn't worth the battle. Have not seen anything one way or the other recently about them pursuing that. But now we got the whole Form 1 thing where they're just assuming you're violating the law because you filing a Form 1. There were people who literally had not ordered any parts from anybody, filed a perfectly legitimate Form 1, and got a denial because the parts would be a violation. They're like, there are no parts. Like, how can the parts be a violation if I have no parts? One guy was literally a machinist. He was like, I'm going to build this myself from scratch. Like, I put in my Form 1, I'm asking for permission, and I'm giving you my $200. Haven't done anything yet. How can there be a potential violation if I'm waiting to get the Form 1 before I do anything? The law hasn't changed. The regulation hasn't changed. They just decided to interpret and apply it differently. And again, they think we're going to just take it. And I think that that's the key, is we need to keep hammering on them. And I think it needs to be, we can't let up when we when we shut something down, we need to keep hammering on it in the sense of, hey, no, you crossed the line. There need to be consequences. Hey, you passed a law that is unconstitutional. You are no longer a senator. You are no longer a government employee. You violated your oath because you knew what you passed was unconstitutional. Everybody who voted for it is no longer in Congress. Because if what you've said the bill is supposed to do, if your announcement about it, if you're a co-signer, say, of a document that is clearly unconstitutional, and it gets struck down by a court as unconstitutional. I'm not saying we get to say this is unconstitutional. I'm saying if the Supreme Court comes back and says, yeah, that's not right, you shouldn't have passed that, I think they should be removed from office. I think anybody who was a co-signer and possibly anybody who voted for it, gone, out the door. Not because on any individual case they necessarily were so heinous, but because that way the next person, the person who replaces them, goes, maybe I should be more careful. Maybe I should make sure I'm operating within my limits, that I'm following the Constitution when I take this oath, that I follow that oath, that I respect that oath. That isn't just something I say along the way as I, take this new job. That it means something. And not just Congress. I feel the same way about police. I think the same way about the military. I think that when you violate that kind of commitment, when you do something that it isn't just against a regulation, it literally violates your oath of office, your oath of position. When you violate the trust that was put in you, significantly enough that you honestly get smacked down. The checks and balances act and go, you were wrong and you should not have done that. Why do we give them another chance? There's a lot of people in line to be in Congress. I don't know why. Freaking gluttons for punishment. But there's a lot of rewards too. These guys get rich real quick, right? It's like being the sheriff. One term as the county sheriff and you're set for life. Well, apparently going to Congress, you're set for life. You can go start in Congress poor and 20 years later have more money in the bank than you got paid your entire time in Congress. Yeah, nothing crooked there at all, right? And it isn't. They literally, that kind of stuff, they did it completely within the law because they wrote the laws to let them do it. Why isn't that a violation? How is that not, violating their oath of office? Are they really working for the betterment of the country or for them? When you let lobbyists write the law rather than consulting them about the effects of the law that you're proposing, because that's how it was supposed to work. The lobbyists would say, hey, we would like to have this changed. We would like to see this kind of protection for our people, or that, hey, there's a problem here. Can you address it? Not that the lobby and the research firm would hand the congressman's staff a completed bill. Hey, can you sponsor this? Thanks. Remember that vacation we took you on? Yeah, that's how that works. These guys don't write anything. We're lucky if the committees do anything at all. The only thing they show up to do is bitch at each other on C-SPAN, sign or not sign the thing that some outside party created, and then go to a party and get paid much money. That's what they do. And I sound like a bitter old asshole. And I wish I didn't. But I also wish I was wrong. I used to be a little more forgiving, a little more, business is done a certain way and you get things done by going with the flow and, steering the flow. But at some point you've gone down the wrong path of the river, right? If you're going with the flow, you still have to steer. You still have to steer down the right path. And when you screw it up, you got to go backwards a bit and get back to the right spot, the right fork in the path, and go down the right path. I'm not saying politically right. I'm saying just, the right as in correct path. I'm a pretty central guy. I'm not that right wing. So to me, a little left, a little to the right, you kind of wind up down the middle, and nobody's entirely happy, but it also feels like they got shafted. That's one of the problems we've had for the last 20 years is that it's like all or nothing. Whoever can passes something that the other side is absolutely opposed to, rather than it being, hey, maybe they've got a point. Let's figure out a common ground where we may pass it without their blessing, and it may not be quite what they wanted, but maybe they've got a point that it shouldn't be way over here or way over here. It should be somewhere in this window. And, if you got this window, you can be here, you can be here. And these guys might not be happy if you're here. And these guys aren't happy if you're here, but they can live with it. They're not feeling like they are living in a country where they're not represented. So I don't know. I don't have a solution for it, because it seems like we just go further and further that direction every year. And I don't see it at the personal level. I see it being our media and our politicians, not people. People seem to be much more reasonable than the parties, than the politicians think or act. The media thinks and acts. I'm not seeing, for the most part, this, far left, far right. Are those groups there? Yeah. And they're fringe groups, and they're still fringe groups, and they're going to be fringe groups, and it just is. But I don't think it's changed that much, that most of the country, as you come toward the center, you have more and more people. As you move out from the center, you're getting less and less common. Most people don't think about most of this stuff that much, other than to literally go, that's freaking stupid. Why are we talking about it? For example, and I'm going to catch shit for this, but the can't say gay for Florida, all of the craziness about it, I don't think they actually looked at what that law was about. It was for kindergarten to third grade in school, not teaching sex ed, basically. Not teaching, it wasn't about gay. It was literally saying, hey, this whole topic, this whole straight, gay, trans, bi, anything, we don't care. It's not appropriate for kindergarten to third grade. I had this discussion with a friend of mine. I'm like, I don't think it's appropriate until high school. And even then, I think that it should be a educational, not pushing. Because some of the curriculum they were talking about that they were trying to get rid of was this was inappropriate. Like, I don't care whether it's gay, straight, bi, or whatever. Like, the questions that people were supposed to be, writing answers to, I don't want to answer that. I don't think that if I was in college, this was an appropriate question to be asking. Maybe if I was in college in a class that I elected to take on sexual variety, research or something, like, okay, but not as a core class, not as a required core course. Sure as hell not in high school, because some of the answers that you would have to give basically were pornographic. That was what they were asking you to write. That's not legal. How is that legal? And people are, oh my God. And they're acting like the law said you couldn't say gay. Like, the law doesn't say you can't say gay. The law doesn't say you can't say anything about it. The law is saying that in school, for these grades, this is not appropriate. Does anybody, who thinks that's appropriate? I'm sure there's some fringe groups who do. And obviously somebody thought it was because they put it in the curriculum. But If you ask the teachers, or sorry, the parents of all the students in this country between kindergarten and third grade, if that curriculum that they were showing was appropriate, I don't think 1% would say yes. I think 1% might say, well, I mean, with some tweaks and this and that. And everybody else would continue going, hell no, that's not age appropriate. I'm not saying you can't talk about this material at some point in school so that the child understands what these terms mean, that these are things that exist. You don't have to like or dislike or agree or disagree with the topic, but it exists. But it's not a topic for small children. We don't need to teach them about that. It's not age appropriate. You're not teaching small children how to use power tools either. You're not teaching small children how chemistry, high like real organic chemistry and things. That it's not age appropriate. There's mathematics that you're not teaching small children. Their brain literally is not ready for it. They don't have the background knowledge for it. They don't have the life understanding for it. Yeah. So that's the kind of thing we're getting with modern politics. The left jumped on this like this was some horrible overreach, that he is passing a bill that says that you can't say gay in Florida. No, like that had nothing to do with it. It literally was only this little tiny little niche that if you actually look into, most people would be good with. Like they would have been like, why was this an issue? Why did this come up at all? Why was that being taught that way? Yeah, I agree with stopping that. But for the most part, people are like, whatever. Like, why is this a discussion? Why are we arguing over this? Why is gas so high? Like, that's a higher priority. Are we going to be sending troops to Ukraine because we don't want that? These are way more important. Are we going to have a war with Russia beyond the cyber war that is already going on? Because yes, by the way, we already actively engage in a cyber war with Russia, and we have been for decades. If you don't believe that, you don't work in IT and are not aware of what's going on. China, Russia, North Korea absolutely has made a hobby / profession of screwing with us and most Western nations via the internet. It's a thing. So anyway, we're going to call it. It's over an hour. Take care. Have fun. Stay safe. Keep your gas tank full. Shit's only going up. Keep your ammo locker full. It's only going up. Right? Crazy times. Bye.